To Autism Live. I am very honored because in the studio live right now we have Justin Leaf, and you are, I want to get it right, the Director of Research for the Autism Partnership Foundation. Tell us a little bit about what the Autism Partnership Foundation is.
Yeah, so the Autism Partnership Foundation is a not-for-profit organization that came about around 2010, really with the mission to improve quality behavior intervention for individuals with autism and their family. And so we do that in three ways. The first way is we have a research team. So it's myself, Joe Sheehan, Julia Ferguson, and Christine Milne, who are just excellent researchers. And we do a variety of studies each year, probably about 15 studies a year, trying to just prove quality intervention makes a difference. The second way is we have a fellowship program where we bring in post-undergraduates, post-master's degree students, postdocs in to get a 2-year training on how to implement quality intervention. And then after 2 years, we send them to different companies or universities to spread the word of quality intervention. And then the third way is with the conference that we put on, where we bring top speakers in for a single track, one-day conference. They get to speak whatever they want to speak about, and they just get to talk good ABA and talk about autism or talk about their experiences.
And we're huge fans of good quality ABA here on the show, so this is all very exciting to me. The conference is coming up in just a couple of weeks. Tell us when and where and how people can go.
Yeah, it's coming up on April 5th. It's a Friday conference. It's in Los Alamitos, California, so a little ways from here, about an hour away. It's you can go to www.autismpartnershipfoundation.org, or you can look at it on Eventbrite and really see information about the conference. We have fantastic speakers this year. So it's a one-day from like 8:30 to 4:30, I believe, conference. We have Greg Hanley coming out from Massachusetts talking about functional assessment. We have Kathy Lord from UCLA talking about social-emotional issues. We have Missy Olive, who's going to talk about special education and the law. We have Dara, who's the CEO of Uber, coming out from a parent's perspective and a business perspective. We have Denny Reed also speaking, talking about supervision. And then finally, we have Tom Zane coming out and talking about ethical practice and making sure that we're ethical when we provide intervention. So it should be a really fun day.
Yeah, a full day. And tell us a little bit about, is there a cost to come to the conference?
Yeah, there's, I believe it's $225 cost. We just did a student cost for those who are students, $175 cost, which includes the conference registration, which includes lunch, and includes all the CEUs if you're needing CEUs, whether it's for BACB or for ASHA or for APA or if you're an MFT, we have those included.
Those were a lot of letters.
Yeah, I know you don't like jargon. So ultimately, if you're a behavior analyst, if you're a psychologist, if you're a speech-language pathologist, or if you're a marriage family therapy counselor, then you can come and get credit for that.
But parents can come as well, right?
Yeah. So when we talk to the speakers, we say that think of it as both a professional and parent conference. So unlike the jargon I just used, they should not be using much jargon out there. They do gear towards parents. We have school district personnel coming. We have teachers. We have paraprofessionals coming. It's really to capture anyone that's interested in autism or behavior intervention should hopefully be coming to this conference.
Super wonderful. And so what website do they go to? They can go to Eventbrite, but where else can they go
www.autismpartnershipfoundation.org or www.autismpartnership.com are the two websites that it's there, or Eventbrite.
And so I'm going to throw this out there I didn't know about this before, but now that I do, for those of you who haven't already made plans for that weekend, the ideal thing, if you're going to go to this conference on Friday, you will get your head filled with wonderful things. You'll have an opportunity to be there, not only to see those amazing speakers, but to be there with that audience who are all people who want to get good quality ABA to the right people. You will leave with your batteries charged, and then you'll already be in the area, so the next day stay over and go to the Autism Mardi Gras, which will just be fun.
Oh, that sounds perfect.
Right?
Perfect combination.
Perfect combination that you can do those things. You'll learn a bunch and also have the fun that comes with all that. I think that's the perfect way to spend that weekend.
And I think the other great thing about the conference is we do an hour lunch where the presenters are just there eating with everyone. So anyone can come up and talk to the presenters. Wonderful. So it has this real personal feel that you can just come up and be part of the community, and as you say, get your batteries charged.
Wonderful. Now, I met you at ABAI, that was the autism conference that was in San Francisco in January. And you were there speaking about something called the SIG.
Yeah.
So explain to our viewers what the SIG is. You might even have to explain what ABAI is.
Yeah, no worries. First of all, I was glad I came before you because I don't know how anyone could present after you. You were just amazing.
Oh, thank you. I thought you were amazing. So,
yeah. So ABAI is our international organization for behavior analysts, and so they throw on conferences. They throw a main conference in May where anyone interested in the field of behavior analysis comes in and presents on their research or their clinical practice, and then they have sub-conferences. So the one that you and I met was an autism conference. So it's professionals and parents who come and who are interested in the field of behavior analysis as it relates to autism.
Yes.
And so within this organization, they have what's SIG, or special interest groups. So they have a special interest group on gambling for those professionals interested in gambling, or a special interest group on practice for those implementing practice or implementing behavior intervention clinically. And then what I'm a part of is the autism special interest group, which is those professionals who are interested in behavior intervention as it relates to autism research and treatment.
So a pretty important group if you're a parent with a child that's being treated using, and we hope that all parents with children on the spectrum are getting good ABA. This would be an important group for us to know about.
Yeah, the goal of the group is to really, right now, is to help parents and professionals about, once again, quality intervention and how to navigate the tricky waters of school, or finding good service providers, or finding good organizations. So the whole mission is to really just help spread that word and help consumers as best we can.
Love it. But there were a couple of things. You had to take care of some business at the conference, but there were a couple of things that you talked about, and one in particular that I came running up to you afterwards, and I was like, we need to talk about this because this tears my ticket. There was an article that came out. I'm going to let you talk about it. What did the article say, and why do we all need to be concerned about it?
Yeah, so this it was a conference right before the year I met you. We did the same kind of presentation where we were talking about the special interest group. And I was very happy because we got people pretty excited about the special interest group. And after the plane from Miami to LA, I got off and I got this email about this article, which was designed to show that individuals with autism, if they receive behavior intervention, then they later in life would have signs of post-traumatic stress disorder. And so this author, what she did was she gave a survey to people who said they had autism. Now, there's no verification if they had autism or didn't have autism. The survey was all online, and you could either have autism or be self-diagnosed with autism. And then they had kind of questions, some which I thought were misleading questions, like, did you feel more stress after you got ABA? Which is kind of a misleading question.
Right.
I'm not a lawyer, but I think that's what would happen in the court of law.
Right.
And what it showed was upwards of 40% of the participants showed signs of PTSD, and they attributed that to behavior intervention.
Right.
And that was concerning to me. I mean, it's concerning on two fronts. One, I think that individuals with autism and their parents should have a voice. And if they have concerns, we need to know that. Yeah. And if it does, in fact, that behavior intervention leads to some stress or PTSD or anxiety, we need to know that as a community.
Yeah.
But the other part was the design was really poorly done, poorly executed. And my main job is a researcher, and so when I see these designs poorly done, I kind of get annoyed and frustrated with it. And the fact that this article, at the time I got, was spread out to 10,000 downloads, which is just more downloads than any article I've ever published, and probably in combination ever published. I was concerned. I was getting calls from different states and different professionals saying they're using this article to stop funding behavior intervention. So that was the article in a quick nutshell.
Yeah. But you had some things to say about it, and you called into question the validity of a lot of the different, the basis of it all. You just put out a thing saying, if you feel that you might have autism, then you can answer these questions. Yeah. And the way the questions were asked. I had an allergic reaction to it as a parent. Yeah. I had a similar allergic reaction last week because there was an article that came out in the Washington Post written by a person who's on the autism spectrum who said, it's very hurtful when people quote this, mythical statistic that parents of children on the spectrum are more likely to be divorced. And they were talking about what it felt like for them. And I, like you, I have a son who is about to be 16 and diagnosed with autism at the age of 2.5. And if you ask me what the single most important thing in my life is, I would tell you it's my kid and making sure that he gets everything that he needs and that he is safe. Yeah. And part of all that is him having a voice. Yeah. There was a time when my son did not have a voice. See, I'm going to get emotional. There was a time when my son did not have a voice, and I had to be his voice by proxy, and I took that as seriously as a heart attack. But I am no longer my son's voice. He is his own voice, and he gets to say whatever he wants to say. So defending the rights of people who are on the autism spectrum to say whatever they have to say, powerful, strong in me, right? So it's not that I want people to not say, and this person was saying it makes me feel this way. And I thought, boy, we have to address that. Yeah. Because first and foremost, that's important. But if the underlying thing that's making them feel that way isn't actually what makes them feel that way, then we have a problem, and it's a communication problem. Right. I was saying that, I do think divorce is rampant, right? Yeah. And I do think the other part of the article talked about the article that compares an autism parent's stress to somebody being in combat. Yeah. And see, with this article saying that PTSD is caused by ABA, we're just a hop, skip, and a jump from people going, look, it's causing that with the parents, it's causing that with the kids. I want to be clear that I think that it's very possible that there are a lot of individuals who have PTSD that are on the autism spectrum. And I know for a fact, as one, I've had someone look me in the face and tell me that I have PTSD that is a person who's qualified to say that. But it is not because my child has autism. Right. Not. And it is not because my son got good quality ABA. Right. That is not why I have PTSD. I have PTSD from all the things I had to do so that he could get quality ABA. Yeah. That's the reality of that. And I'm still happily married, thankfully, but the arguments that my husband and I have had have never been over my child, have never been over his behavior, have never been over his quality ABA program. It's been over figuring out how to pay for, how to get the paperwork in, how to do all of those things.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely the case. I mean, I'm sure families and individuals with autism, there's so many stressors that are occurring. As you said, paying for the education and paying beyond the education. Yes. Making sure that you still have a healthy relationship with your partner is other stress, and throwing that in. And those are absolutely other stressors that contribute. And I want to be clear, I believe that every individual should have a voice and should be given their opinion.
Absolutely.
My concern is just when people do research that's just not accurate research or done well, and the influence that could have, so that other families coming up are going to not be able to get the intervention so that their children can have those voices.
And when somebody is, I believe, taking advantage of our adults on the autism spectrum by asking them a question that isn't well asked, when I have a pretty healthy amount of friends that are individuals who are on the autism spectrum, some who had ABA, some who did not have ABA. Right. And when I talk to all of those people, if I talk to the friends that I have who had ABA, I will be honest with you, most of them don't remember a lot about the ABA intervention. What they remember and what they say, we've had them on the show, you can Google the interviews. They say, I remember people coming over to the house to play with me. Yep. I remember, and they only remember a couple of them. They don't even remember all the therapists. They don't really have a memory of that. But if you talk to them about what was stressful during their childhood, they will talk about, my parents arguing about, and I didn't know what it was. Right. They argue, they talk about what was stressful is that other kids sometimes didn't meet them where they were, that teachers didn't meet them where they were. I have yet to have had anyone talk to me about, what I remember is a day when we were doing ABA and I didn't get the answer right. Yeah. Right? I never, ever have heard that. And so I think taking advantage of those individuals by asking them a question that doesn't really get to what's really stressing them out.
Right.
What I do hear from friends who are adults who are on the autism spectrum that didn't have ABA, they sometimes have huge feelings and complaints because they have heard things. They have heard things that seem to disrespect what they understand, but that is from them hearing about it, which is a different thing. And I honor that as well. You have concerns about something you've heard about. I've invited people to come and see ABA so that they can see what it's like.
Same with us. We have, at our agency, we have open door policy. When someone's concerned, it's come and look what it looks like, and then make your judgment after that.
But you're right, though. We cannot have people putting in jeopardy the people who are coming now and saying, I would like this therapy for my child, and not being able to have access to that because of a misconception.
Right.
Please interview people in a proper way if you have questions.
Yeah, and so what we were concerned about, the special interest group, the executive council, which is all clinicians, some researchers and clinicians, Mary Jane Weiss, who's just this fabulous clinician, Bob Ross, who's a clinician, Joseph Shannon, who's a clinician. We just said we couldn't just let this go. We couldn't put behavior intervention in the lives of individuals with autism and their families in jeopardy. So we just wrote a response to it and just broke it down of what our concerns are, what our problems were. We did it, we made it free so anyone can go in it. So we raised money to make sure that we can publish it for free so that any family member, any behavior analyst, any politician can go click on it, download it today. It's in Advances in Autism, and they can see our response to this article to know that, you know, what they're saying is just not a good portrayal or an accurate portrayal of how research should be done. And if we're interested in this topic, and we should be interested in looking at these things, there's better ways to do it.
Yeah, and I appreciate that you guys were willing to look at it and go, is there any amount of truth to this? I appreciate that you were in that, because we all need to be aware. But where can they find the response? Where can we go online to find it?
It's in Advances in Autism. So if you Google Advances in Autism, and then they'll have a search key, and you just put LEAF, L-E-A-F. It'll pop up, you just click on it, and it'll say, like PDF, you just click on it, and it's yours. Download it, save it to your computer. You can pass it out, you can pass it on Facebook. You can. We made sure we raised money so that we can make it open to everyone. Okay.
Now, you also have here that you want to talk about the importance of implementing the progressive model and quality intervention to individuals. Now, I don't know, I know what quality intervention is, but what's the progressive model?
Yeah, so I was trained by people who started either the field of behavior intervention or people who are part of the UCLA Young Autism Project. And so I'm heavily influenced by them. And for us, the progressive model is that you're using clinical judgment, meaning we're not just going to follow a protocol, we're not going to follow a script. We're going to look at the child, we're going to look at the family, we're going to look at the environment, we're going to look how the child's doing on that day. And our therapists are able to make decisions in the moment based on a lot of factors to best work with that child and that family. So instead of just going into a session and just saying, I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, and just follow like that, like a recipe. It's they go in and they have a game plan, but then they'll switch from that game plan based on how the child's doing, the family's doing, what's going on that day. So we came up with, we were at a university presenting, I was at a university, and someone said they didn't like behavior intervention. And I was just like, okay, this is great.
What you talking about?
Yeah, I'm going to present on this for 2 hours. This will be lovely. They came up and said, oh, I love what you talked about. Could you write an article on this? And so we wrote an article, and we said progressive, just meaning that the field should be improving upon itself.
Of course.
Like what we do today, hopefully is different than what we did 3 years ago. Hopefully we're getting better. And what we're doing today is hopefully better than 3 years previously. So it's just all about in-the-moment decision making and really being flexible and working with the child and the family as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, this is, I will be honest, my first reaction is like, oh, are there people not doing it this way?
Yeah, unfortunately there is. And unfortunately I see it all too often across the country.
You know, one of the things that we, a couple of years ago, when we first started the show, because we've been on now for 8 years, which is crazy to think about, but when we first started the show, we were talking all about ABA and about how everybody needed to get access and there wasn't insurance funding when we first started. Then once insurance funding started to come in state by state, and the questions that we were getting from people, I was like, what? What do you mean? I don't understand even the question. And we realized that it was so important to start talking about quality ABA because it's not, it was so depressing to me to go, oh, you mean everybody's not, and we've talked a lot on the show about what the hallmarks are. I'd love to know from you, like, is there anything that you send parents to or anything that you say to parents when they say, how would I know a quality, if I don't know ABA and I'm coming in fresh, how do I know that I'm in a good quality ABA program?
Yeah, I think one, for me, I always tell them you want to look at who the directors are, who the supervisors are, where did they get their experience? Like if I take my son to a doctor, I ask him or her questions about where did they get their experience, what training do they have. I think that sets it apart. And then the second part is how much do they care about training their supervisors? How much do they care about training their staff? So at our agency, we're spending 1 or 2 months training our staff before they are independently working with kids. And the reason for this is we have such a powerful job. I mean, we're taking children's lives in our hands and hopefully developing it for the better. And so I want to make sure training is there. The other thing I just say is, what's your philosophy? Like, this is what I tell parents to ask. What's your philosophy? If they say their philosophy is they're just following this book to a T, like I would say, run. It's like what you should be hearing, the key words are it's individualized. It's going to be based on the child's needs. It's going to be quality, and they'll define quality on training, a whole curriculum, not just on language, just not reducing aberrant behavior, but working on social, working on play. So it should be this wraparound service that they'll have partnerships and collaborate with other professionals, other families. You know, for me, a thing I hate hearing, and I see this because I teach graduate students and sometimes, is they're like, oh, we're just there to work with a child. And it's just like, no, you're working with the child in the context of a family. And so you have to understand how the siblings play into this. You have to understand how to work with the mothers, the fathers, the grandparents. And so making sure that they're not just saying, work only with the child, but no, you're going to be working with the family. I think those are kind of important parts. And the last part is making sure you're doing evidence-based procedures. And that there's research behind it, and you're just not going off and doing, you know, dolphin therapy and spending time away from that because there's no evidence to that, and that's going to take away time.
Well, I love all of the things that you're saying. I mean, I think they're exactly the things that we say here all the time because, you know, it's so important that people understand what it is that they're getting. One of the weird things that I think when we got insurance, it allowed parents to not we didn't have to fight as hard to get it, so it allowed parents to not know as much about it, which absolutely has been a negative thing.
I'm 100% agreement. I think we are have the same philosophy.
We're in line. From
watching a show and listening to you speak. I mean, that's why I was so glad to be coming here, was because we have
you too.
Similar views.
It's a wonderful thing. And so I want to go back, though, to talk about just briefly, because we're running out of time. So the conference is happening on April 5th.
Yeah, it's a Friday.
So, and honestly, it's not too late if you want to be able to go to it. It's in Los Alamitos.
Los Alamitos.
So that's Southern California.
It is Southern California.
It's not far from Disneyland.
It's like 20 minutes away from Disneyland. You take the same street down and you're going to hit Disney.
There you go. So, and why not be near Disneyland?
Yeah, it's perfect.
So honestly, you could go to the conference on Friday, you can go to the Autism Mardi Gras in Fullerton on Saturday, and then you could hit Disneyland on Sunday.
It sounds like a perfect weekend.
That is the perfect way to start Autism Awareness Month, April. So there is the flyer for the conference. You can see the pictures of the fabulous speakers. And I didn't ask you this before. Are you regional center vendored? Is there a possibility for them to? They
can contact us, and I think it's by different regional centers. It's by the different ones.
Because sometimes if you're in California and you want to go to a conference, regional center will pay a portion or all of your ticket price.
I can't speak to all because there's different regional centers, but there's certain ones I believe.
Reach out and it's definitely a worthwhile thing to go, you guys. And if we want to know more about ABAI and the SIG, just in general, where would we go for that?
I would Google Applied Behavior Analysis International Conference, and then I think they have a tab. You just put Autism SIG in it, and that will show up. I also have it's ABAI, Autism SIG on Facebook. So if you just do
That's
the search
probably a
button.
better place
That's
for us
the
to do it.
easiest.
Okay,
Search it.
ABAI Autism SIG,
And then-
SIG is SIG, you guys.
Yep.
And then if we want to read that article, the response to the article about PTSD, again, where do we go for that?
Advances in Autism, or any listener can email me and I will gladly send it along.
Okay, fabulous. And you also mentioned that, you are at a center that you, in addition to all these things,
Yeah.
you are working in this field
Yeah.
actively. And so where are you at? Where if people want to know more about you and your center?
So we're in Southern California. We're in Seal Beach, which is also close to Disney, also close to LAX.
There you go.
And it's autismpartnershipfoundation.org.
And so you treat also from the foundation?
Yeah, we treat.
Oh, okay.
We treat from the foundation. There's also a for-profit company that we
Okay.
work with, Autism Partnership. So we have about 40 to 50 children right now that we treat in
Okay.
our center. And then we have international offices as well. So offices in Singapore and Hong Kong and London and Australia.
The name of all that is
Autism Partnership.
Autism Partnership. Okay, fabulous.
Yeah.
Well, I have so enjoyed having you here.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate you taking the drive to get all the way up here.
I'm glad to do so.
And I hope that you guys have an amazing conference, and I hope that some parents get there. I think, I know as a parent, sometimes it can feel overwhelming going to a conference and putting yourself out there. But anytime you get the opportunity to do that, you guys, just sitting in the room with people who are trying to find a better way to do the thing that you're doing is always going to help your soul.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's so easy as a parent to sit at home and feel like you are on the planet Mars by yourself. Even though you go online and you see that there are other parents, but it can feel so overwhelming sometimes, like how are we ever going to get there? I always use the expression, whose arms are we in? Because there was a period of time when I would not sleep.
Yeah.
I could not sleep because I said, I have this child and I have to help him. And it's not just him. Look at all these other children. Who's helping us? Whose arms are we in?
Right.
And when you go to a conference like this and you see how many people's arms you're in, people who have chosen to be in the field of autism, like I didn't choose.
Yeah.
I was drafted.
Yeah.
I was drafted and I'm happily here, right? And this is my tribe now. But I didn't choose this. When I'm around a room full of people who chose this, it does so much for my psyche. It makes me feel like there is hope.
Yeah. That's hopefully the message that comes out of it, that there's hope and that there's a lot of professionals here who are trying to get better and provide quality intervention to children with autism and their families.
Yeah. So do yourself this favor. And again, where do we go to register for the tickets?
At www.autismpartnershipfoundation.org or Eventbrite or www.autismpartnership.com.
Okay. All right. So all of those things, what great resources that we gave. We are totally out of time. I want to say that we're back next Wednesday with a live show, and we do have Dr. Grampichet on Wednesday answering your questions, plus an amazing show for Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. We hope that you'll be here. We are not doing a live show a week from Thursday. I have like 7 places I have to be on that day, and none of them can be here. But I do want to put it in your ear for those of you that are watching on a regular basis. 2 things, really quickly. Don't forget that we're doing that contest today for the tickets to the conference, for TACA's conference that's happening in a couple of weeks in Atlanta, Georgia. So make sure that you like this feed on Facebook Live and that you put whether you want to go to Costa Mesa or whether you want to go in a couple of weeks to Atlanta, Georgia. That's the TACA conference. Please detail why you want to be one of the 5 people chosen to have 2 tickets. We're going to be choosing those winners at some point over the weekend. You've got 24 hours to be counted in for that contest. So that's one thing. And then we'll notify you over the weekend. You won't have to wait till next Wednesday to do that. But I also want to give you a programming note that starting in April, we are shifting and we are going to be on Monday through Friday from 10 to 11. 1 hour at a time, but Monday through Friday instead of 2 hours on Wednesday and 2 hours on Thursday. We'll keep reminding you of that. All right. We will see you next Wednesday. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now.